Hello, everyone. So this time we are interviewing LouAnne Boyd, and she recently graduated from the University of California at Irvine from the Donald Brehm School of Information and Computer Sciences. She's currently at Chapman University, and she has been doing quite a bit of interesting work on information technology for children with autism. So LouAnne, you've done many different projects from what I heard, right? So could you give us an overview of a few of the different projects you've done?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So just quickly to mention, my career before I went into IT was as a therapist, teaching children with autism, behavior therapist, but I focused a lot on social skills in the last decade of that career. And I actually wound up writing a book, a curriculum of social skills, which I made look like apps. I don't know how well you guys can see that. But each lesson, so these are just mental models or cognitive concepts for when we're teaching the skills. And so in my PhD program, I was actually able to make the technologies that are some of these conceptual ideas. So I've got a couple of them here I can show you, but generally my dissertation focused on the nonverbal communication, which is just this top row. So you see,
yeah, we see that. Yeah.
Great.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the top row of these 4 nonverbal communication skills are reading people's body language, proximity, knowing how close to stand to somebody based on your relationship with them. So if they're a stranger, you stand a little farther away. If they're an intimate friend, you can stand much closer.
And this is because children with autism, they don't know that of themselves?
That's right. Children with autism and adults too have a lot of challenges with social skills, and a lot of it is because they're overwhelmed with sensory input, and so we spend a lot of time giving them visual input about how to interact socially. So because it's visual, it's really nice. We can use sensor technology now to give them actual real-time visuals.
So what would you say is the project that is the furthest advanced, or that you're most working on the most of the time? Which one would you like to show us?
I'll give you a little history of some of it because I think the process of it is interesting. And so I'll talk to you about the proximity compass. And so this is a project I did during my dissertation work. And I'm going to share a screen just to show you some of the initial drawings for this project. Let me see if I can do that. Share. All right. So this is actually from a Kai paper. This is a section where we show some drawings that we did for a screen. We asked children and PhD students in information technology how they would visualize proximity, like what that meant to people. And can you see these 6 drawings or 7 drawings of screenshots?
Yes, we see them.
Okay, so then this first one here is drawn by, these first couple are drawn by PhD students, and these last 3 are drawn by children. And what we were trying to figure out is how to make the point of view. Should we make it like street level view or like kind of sky view? How do you interpret this? And so we found out by analyzing these data, we came up with kind of design guidelines that helped us go into actually building the technology. So I'll take that share off. And so with that idea of like knowing how to design the phone part of it, we went into designing the sensor part. So this is kind of a 2-part system. So I have a couple prototypes back here I'm going to grab off my desk. So the first prototype, you can see literally it's still in cardboard. We started from scratch. It's just the computing parts have been removed inside here, but that's just a simple box with the vision of the children were going to wear it around their neck. And we have 2 sensors here. And we had to do this because in social proximity, we start all the way from 5 meters out.
Okay.
We have one sensor that could read 5 meters away, and we have another sensor that could read within 36 inches. And so these sensors, they didn't make it from my move from Chapman to Chapman. They didn't survive very well, but they were attached here on the top, and this would curve to read, and it's infrared, so it feels an object in front of you, and then it can display onto the interface that can show you how close you are. So I've got the prototype we actually did the study with. So again, these are because they're lab studies to prove a concept. Is do children respond to this visual feedback? This was one 3D printed right in our lab with the same sensors on top, and There's lots of fun bits in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we were able to bring in children and run this as a study. And so I can talk a little bit about that study design at the end, but I have another demo I want to show you.
So how does it work? They have this, the camera sees somebody, and then what does it do? It gives them feedback, or what does it tell them?
Yes. So those images I showed you before were the initial screenshots. It gives them it gives them visual feedback. I'm going to share it again just to. I can scroll down and show you the actual final. There we go. So it's a little bit small, but this is the view that they saw. You can see these. If they're in the green zone, that's when they're in the socially acceptable spot for an acquaintance. And so this is about 18 inches to about 100 inches.
Okay.
So
how do they see this? Do they have this on a phone, or how do they get this picture?
Yeah, so they have it on a phone.
Yes.
And they're carrying the phone and they're wearing the sensor around their neck on a necklace, on a lanyard. Yeah. And so and it's real time. So they're the little white person right here. Yeah. And as we have them start 5 meters away. And so that as they approach the person, they walk through this green space. And then if they walk too close, the person turns yellow. And if they're really in their interpersonal space, they turn red.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really, I think, pretty intuitive. The kids got it. The kids that attended to the screen seemed to get it really well. They would just reference it once or twice, like, okay, I see it until it changes colors, I'm good. And then once it changed colors, they'd back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wasn't selective in terms of who I recruited. I wanted to bring anybody in, and I can talk about the challenges of doing the experimental designs. So we had some children that were nonverbal and lower functioning intellectually, and those children didn't look at the phone. Like, they never looked at it to get the feedback. So for those children weren't quite ready for this kind of app, but for the kids that were working on this skill, say at school, were able to pick it up really intuitively, and it worked really well.
So yes, tell us a little bit more about the study and how many kids you worked with, and maybe turn off the screen share.
Sorry, I forgot it was on.
You were really small, so.
Sure. So that study had 11 children in it, and we ran it in a lab situation. So at UCI, we have a big space that on the weekends is empty, and we had kids. I use single subject design so that the children serve as their own baseline, because a lot of resources go into having control groups where you have to match by gender and age and intellectual ability. And in terms of kind of getting a proof of concept, that's a lot of effort to put in for this level of a study.
And they're also very different, right? All the children?
Yes, everybody. Yes, they're extremely, extremely different, right? And then also, I don't necessarily have to pull their records and know their intellectual ability and their diagnoses. I can recruit off of Facebook, literally, and use my network of people I've worked with over the last decade.
Yes.
And so we bring the kids come into the lab with their parents, and we had 4 research assistants. 2 were male and 2 were female, and they were trained to stand at a certain spot in the room and stay there and not change their body orientation, that they were to stay, in one spot. And then we had the child start 5 meters away. We had a piece of tape on the floor, and we made sure the system was on. And we ran randomly rotated trials with baseline where they still wore the sensor, but they didn't have the phone on. We had them still carry it, but we just turned the screen off. And then trials where they had the screen on. So it was, back and forth. So we could see, like, over time, do they get a little bit better? And so generally the kids that were in that yellow zone they moved into the green zone. They were able to get that. There were a couple kids that were in the green zone in baseline. They didn't demonstrate that issue. And then the child that was in the red zone is the one that was probably the lowest functioning child. And she never even looked at the phone, and she would need a little work to get ready to use that.
Yeah. So there was little training time that you had for them?
Yeah, we did a little training up front where we made sure they put the sensor on and they could look at it and read it and tell us what it was doing. The young lady that got too close was nonverbal, so her mom and I talked to her about it, but we just wanted to see what she could do. We weren't expecting her to start doing something that she hadn't done before. So to get to this point, how many people were involved, and who did the building, and how did that work? Yeah, so this was a neat project because it started in the beginning of the school year in September. We had a student visiting from China in our lab, and he had a scholarship to be with us for the whole year. So it's like, perfect. What can we do with build over a year? So he spent, and he was an electrical engineer. So he was really excited to learn about autism and learn how to program an app, and put his electrical engineering skills to work. In China, his dissertation was on location, underground location. So for shopping malls and things that stores would know when you're in their store without using GPS. So that's a problem he wanted to solve, was proximity without GPS. And of course I said, well, it's the second skill in my book. It's social proximity, and it's this, proximity is proximity. So it was really fun for the two of us to work daily for a year on this. So we worked on the tech pieces while I went and worked on design features with children to get an idea of their perspective and understanding. And he worked on finding sensors that, didn't just bounce off people's clothes. And we had lots of those kind of issues, like finding the right sensors, ordering them. So it was pretty much he and I, and then at the end we brought in 4 research assistants that we trained up.
Yeah, so it looks like a lot of hardware to me. Is there already a software component? Because I can imagine, for example, that you would like to track once people are using it, how well it works, or are they ignoring it? So are you tracking data with it?
Yes, that's that we didn't build into it, but you absolutely, that would be the last step to have that. People didn't leave the lab with it, so we didn't have a need for the study to build kind of that tracking system. But absolutely, if this were to be in the world, people would want to be able to monitor it and have that feedback, and we would have to manage like HIPAA regulations and
yeah. And are there plans to make it a little bit more socially acceptable? Because it's a big ugly box at the moment.
Right. It's like, I like showing it because it's such a prototype. It's such a like, this is where it starts. And many of the kids talked about that. They're like, well, that's really obvious. I feel like people would feel like I'm a spy if I wore that. And we're like, right, you would never wear that. In fact, you could probably do the whole project just with your phone and Bluetooth. But part of our challenge was figuring out how to use these sensors and so tracking data would be great for the future.
So I have 2 more questions for you. One is immediate future. Where is this going? Are you currently working on it? Are you doing more development?
Yes, I actually took it into VR. And I have another project that I took both of them and combined them and put them into VR. So I can.
You mean virtual reality, right?
Yes, and immersive virtual reality, where you put on a headset and you feel like you're in 3D space. And so the whole entire environment is contrived or manipulated. So it gives us an opportunity to do things we can't do in physical space.
Who are you working with for that?
I had a master's level team in my PhD do it with it, but I was just me.
And where do you get the VR components?
I use Vive. So I bought I can show you the box real quick. It's right here.
Okay. So it works out of the box?
What's that?
It works out of the box?
It works out of the box, yes. It's really robust. It has a lot of wires that hang out, and hopefully I can show you those in a minute. And the headset's a little heavy for children, but it works. I mean, if someone's 8 years old or over, they can kind of handle being in there. And then you have to design your own apps. So there's a lot of documentation on how to do that. It's complicated. It's written in, there's Unity software, and you have to be able to write program in C#. So it's a lot of math because you're doing gravity and all kinds of things in 3D space. Yeah. But and then of course we need a gaming style computer that has enough RAM to make it run. But that's it. It's not too complicated technically.
So LouAnne, is there something else you can show with these glasses that you're wearing now?
Yes, I'd love to show you this. So this is another app that we designed that was based on my social skills curriculum, and it's the voice-o-meter one, and this works on prosody. So prosody is your volume and how fast you talk, and almost also the tone of your voice. And so this is problematic for people with autism. It's hard for them to hear prosody, and a lot of our communication is delivered through the way we use our tone of voice. So I'm going to switch my screen so you can see what I see in the glass, and hopefully it'll wake up. Let's see if it's going to do it. So this one's just a voice-o-meter. So as I'm speaking, it's giving me that feedback.
So is it helping them learn if they're speaking too loudly maybe, or?
Yes.
Okay.
and I'd have to scream to make it loud enough so you get a sense of how loud. So I'd have to, wah! Wow, it's not, I don't want to get any louder than that. I have an office mate, but you can see even that loud.
Yeah.
Not getting the feedback. Okay.
Now it's coming. It's a little bit slow showing on the screen here.
Yes, it's much quicker on mine. It's about a quarter second turnaround on my screen.
We went to we're going to orange.
Oh, all the way to orange. Good. So it gets all the way up to red, but I'd have to really scream.
Oh, it was a little bit red. Yeah, that last screen probably is what we just saw.
So, so I'll stop sharing there, but just to say again, I ran a study with this and we found that the participants they got alerts every 5 seconds. So they were actually hitting these criteria.
Wow.
And they responded beautifully. As soon as they saw the red, they could, yeah.
That's great. And this looks way better than that box that you showed earlier.
Yes, yeah.
I wouldn't mind wearing this one.
It's going to be better. The new ones I think will look just like glasses. So
yeah. That's great. So where do you see this going? Terms of future, 2 questions. Short term, where do you see your short-term future with these technologies? And then I'll ask you later, like, where do you see the future in general? So first, your future with these technologies.
My future is I'm going to continue exploring these nonverbal communication cues in AR and VR and probably mixed reality because those glasses are now available. And I think it's a really wealthy area to explore. I think there's going to be lots of stuff we can help people with. And then for the field, I actually feel the same way that there's so many great applications for health and personal wellness and awareness that we can use with these apps. So I just see more and more of this happening. So I'm very excited.
Probably for many different populations and becoming cheaper and more easily available because there is not much available right now.
Right. There's not much like this available that's really that's affordable. I mean, we've got watches coming out. They're still a little pricey, but I think over time that things are going to be much more affordable. And we've got VR that's finally affordable. So
yes, that's amazing. Yeah. And then the glasses, so let's hope it goes beyond apps and we can do something more than what you can do with an app, right?
Right, exactly. That'd be terrific.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you very much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
And maybe we'll see you out there with some new cool devices.
I hope so.
Goodbye.
Bye.